Hello, everybody. So it's good to be back with you. I just came out of a clarity session with a friend of mine, and I had told him I was going to cut a video if I could, call the simplicity of this. And so when at the conclusion of our clarity session, which was 60 minutes of laughter, then he said, "And you're going to cut a video?" And I said, "I don't know. I'm going to see if video man is in the neighborhood. And if he is, I'm going to cut a video. And if he's not, I'm going to give it 10 or 20 false starts. And then I'm going to go to the grocery store and forget about it. And I'll try this again some other day." So I don't know if he's here or not. We're going to find out. If you watch this video on YouTube, he's here. Then he was here. And if you don't ever see this, well, you'll never know what you missed. So the heaviness of non-dual teachings is what was concerning my friend. And I don't know that it really was, it wasn't like he was stating that it was a problem, but he just noticed that there was a lot of disparity between that and what he and I were doing. And that doesn't mean that enlightenment always shows up as a comedian or anything like that. It certainly does not. It can show up any way it does. But what I think he meant was that, because he told me he had been watching a lot of videos on YouTube, at which point I smiled and I knew. Because I don't watch a lot of YouTube anymore. Well, I watch some, but it's just not on this topic, right? It'll be on something else. It'll be a how-to or whatever. And, but on one day I got an email with somebody said, "Watch this." And I get a lot of emails that say, "Watch this" with an attachment, or "Read this" with an attachment or a link or something like that. And God bless you all. You're welcome to send them. I just very, very rarely get a chance to actually read those things or watch those things. When you're actually creating content for the internet, it's hard to be an avid consumer of content from the internet. So when I watched this video that I got sent, what I noticed was the teacher was a man, and it was and there was an awakened being there. I want to tell you that. I mean, this guy was absolutely awake. There's no question about it. None. Zero. And and not only was he awake, but he was clear as a bell. No kidding. I mean, it just radiated. You could feel it, you could see it, you could hear it, you could see it find it in the language and the words, all of it. And it was I gotta tell you, it was a really beautiful little experience there. I was really enjoying myself. I was listening to this, and it's like gems were just falling out of his mouth. Like just one, here's a diamond, here's an emerald, here's a pearl. Just pearls of wisdom just falling out of his mouth. That's the way I wanted to be when I got to be a spiritual teacher. That's what I thought I would sound like. Oops. And I thought that's the way I would be, the quiet guy that comes out and everybody's the pin drop. I didn't know everybody's going to say, "Well, there's Fred," right? So you got the goofy one. I got the goofy one, which just was a big disappointment for me, and it may be for you too. So I'm listening to this guy, and I'm caught up in it, and I'm just listening to it, and I'm listening to the beauty of it, and I'm enjoying the beauty of it, and then all of a sudden it dawned on me, what in the hell is this guy talking about? Because nothing he was saying was freeing. Now, everybody's got their job, and everybody's doing their job, including this guy. He's doing exactly what he's supposed to be doing. And certainly on one level, he's a wonderful teacher, because if you want the feel of this thing, I don't think you can do any better than that. I really don't. I mean, it's just, wow, just great. But it was not freeing. It was very good for pulling you into the non-dual community and giving you a sense. You knew what a sense of presence was because this guy had it, right? He had a real sense of presence, a real gift. He had a gift of language. I mean, he was good. But nothing he was saying was freeing. What he was telling you was he was giving you a wonderful idea of what enlightenment was going to look like if you ever got lucky enough to wake up yourself. And he was telling you what it was like in his world of enlightenment. He just wasn't offering any bridge for you to get there. And this may not seem like a lot. I don't know. It's a lot to me. But it may not seem like a lot to you. And that's fine. You know, I mean, again, everybody's doing what everybody's supposed to do. I'm just reporting, and I'm here reporting to you because I can't not. Honest to God. I could tell you that, oh, I had this idea, or I was talking to my friend, or I was this, that, and the other. But the truth is, I'm here doing what I'm doing because I can't not do it, which is exactly the reason that guy's doing that. He's doing his job. He's doing a great job. And we're fortunate to have him. And that's the truth. But there's nothing he was saying that was freeing. And that's what we have to learn to tell ourselves that. We have to begin to tell ourselves the truth at some point. And sometimes these people who can reach very broadly, I think of it as like AM radio. When I was a kid, and we had AM radio, and at night, and that's where all the pop was at that time, and you could and there was a radio station out of Chicago that you could hear from time to time. I don't remember it, but it was a big deal. And I was in South Carolina. But at night, if the weather was right or whatever, then you could tune in to Chicago, and you might even hear New York or something. And this FM radio, it didn't reach it wasn't a strong signal, but it was a very broad signal, and it covered a lot of territory. And there are teachings like that. That it's not a really it's a strong signal as far as pulling you in, but it doesn't cut very deeply. It feels like it does. We think it does. We tell ourselves it does. But we notice that we're right back at the 13th retreat, and we still don't know who the hell we are. And I'm just suggesting that, for many of you, that is your path, and please have at it. I'm talking to the few of you among you for whom that is no longer your path. It was my path. Let me be clear. Let me be clear. And I can tell you that part of my path still means a great deal to me. It was absolutely vital. So we need these folks. We really, really, really and truly do. Because he's a recruiter for me. See, this is, you got your AM teachers, and then you got your FM teachers, which is they have a very clear signal, but it doesn't cover so much territory. You'd never be able to hear an FM station from Chicago if you were in South Carolina in 1960 or so, whatever. So you've got the AM teachers, you've got the FM teachers, and these are great. This is where we move to from the AM teachers usually, is that we'll move up because we'll begin to notice that the AM teacher is not that it feels like we're making a lot of progress, but if we get real honest with ourselves, we notice we're in the same position I was 2 years ago. And is that progress, or is that, activity? You can confuse activity with progress very easily. So we move from the AM teacher to the FM teacher. And that FM teacher reaches a smaller group, but he cuts more deeply, in the sense that, and the way that you can tell this is that the percentage of people waking up in the presence of this person or from the teachings of this person is significantly higher than it was with the AM teacher. The AM teacher may not even discuss enlightenment that much. Might talk about it quite a bit, but I think a lot of the times that they really don't. But you know that you know they're enlightened. You know they've got it. You know that, and you know that same thing with the FM teacher. The difference is that your ears have changed, and where 2 years before you couldn't hear the FM teacher, now you can hear the FM teacher. But you couldn't hear the FM teacher if it wasn't for the AM teacher. So see, everybody's got their job. This is the vital thing to see. So we move into the FM teacher, and maybe we start, and things start flipping and flopping. Maybe we have some glimpses, or maybe we get some deep spiritual insights, or whatever. And it feels like, once again, that we're making progress. But see, if you're on just so you know, if you're on a hamster wheel, it feels like you're making progress. It really does. How you doing? I'm doing fine. Are you making any progress? Oh, absolutely. I'm on the path. How you doing? Great. I'm on the path. Or how you doing on the path? I'm great. I'm very successful because I'm on the path. And there's no mention of where the path is going. Or if it has an end, but there's a path. And I'm on that wheel. See, most of us, while we're on the wheel, we can't see the wheel. And that's the reason we need teachers, most of us, not all of us. I actually didn't need one. I mean, not a physical teacher. I needed a virtual teacher and a book. But I didn't need a physical teacher. And you may not either. And if so, poo with all this. Have a nice life. But I needed a teacher after I woke up, because I found out that as hard as it is to wake up on your own, it does not compare to clearing on your own. I don't know anybody that's cleared on their own. I surely do not. And I know a lot of awake beings. So there's the AM teacher, the FM teacher. And then there is the guy in the corner. He might not even have a microphone. He might not even need a microphone. He may just have a little group. But within that little group, there are powerful things happening. There are people waking up. Because what the FM teacher was saying was freeing in a general way. But generalities ain't going to work with so long. You need something specific. Most people will. I mean, not everybody. Maybe not you, that's fine. But most will. I mean, I have had now, I've been teaching for 5 years, and I work 3 sessions a day, 5.5 days a week. So, I mean, I've had a lot of experience in this. And so the guy in the corner is the one who actually listens to you. See, he doesn't listen to someone like you. He doesn't listen to someone that you think is like you. He doesn't listen to someone who looks or acts like you. He listens to you. And when he listens to you, he understands things that you just can't imagine. That's the truth. So yeah, a guy could walk into a room with me, and he could be, just the most unconscious guy on the planet. And he could sit down. If he never opened his mouth, I might give him the benefit of the doubt. Say, boy, this guy might be awake. But once he opens his mouth, it doesn't take me very long. Now, I'm not saying that I couldn't be fooled by some scoundrel with a very good non-dual vocabulary or something for a little while, but not over any length of time. And generally speaking, generally speaking, it's going to be out in seconds. That's the truth. So when I listen, because I'm the guy in the corner, if you hadn't figured it out. See, the FM guy is also my recruiter. That's the truth. That's what they do. They're narrowing the field for me, because I do most of everything not everything I do, but most of what I do is one-on-one. And see, you can't do masses one-on-one. It's just impossible. You can only do but so many, because these things can actually be quite taxing. Awakening clarity sessions, they usually are not, but awakening sessions can be quite taxing. I had you might say quite a taxing one today. And those of you who've seen my video on the bubble of self-reflection, you'll know what I'm talking about. If you haven't seen that video, go watch that video. It's very good. And it's so the bubble of self-reflection is when the person knows there's a larger truth and they're trying to see that larger truth, but they're in a bubble. They're in a bubble. And in this bubble, just like this, whoops, there we go. So in this bubble, every time this woman knows there's a larger truth, and she's determined to discover what it is. But every time she tries to look out, what she sees is her own reflection on the inside of that bubble. And just so you know, that bubble, and even though it's just a bubble, it is damn near impenetrable from the outside. Now, the good news is that from the inside, you just touch it and the whole bubble pops. And I've gotten to where I'm fairly good at, I would say I'm very good at helping people touch the inside of their bubble so that it pops. And today I had just a real lulu. And the session went on, and I could see that he knew it, but he was just still had one foot in the bubble. And I could tell that he just wasn't with me. And so I kept on trying to get him out, and he had one foot still stuck in that bubble. And usually when it gets toward the end of a session like that, if I don't have him, I ain't going to get him. That's the truth. And any further activity on my part is going to be a waste of time, but I've noticed I usually try it anyway. And that's what I did with this guy, because I can't not. Because my job is, it's like everybody's doing their job, and my job is to wake people up. My job is not to prepare you for somebody else. My job is to wake you up. My job is not to prepare you to wake up tomorrow. My job is to wake you up right now. That's what I do. I've seen people come in awakening sessions with pencils and pieces of paper, and they're going to think they're going to take notes, and I won't let them, because what they're doing is they're taking notes because they think they're coming to that session to get some more cracked information so they can wake up after they talk to Fred. And that's not the way it works. You wake up while you're talking to me in session. So I need my recruiters, because I can only speak to a limited number of people. And I'm not going to say I'm the only guy on earth that's doing this. I'm just the only guy that I know of that's doing this. What's freeing is what frees you. It's not what freed the teacher. It's not what freed your best friend. It's not what freed your partner. What's freeing is what frees you here and now. And it's my job to figure out what that is. When I listen to you one-on-one, it's my job to figure out what you're doing. I'm not trying to sell an awakening session here, by the way. I've got all of them I want. What I'm trying to do is to tell you that can be a progression in non-dual teachings. And you can move from the FAM guy to the FM guy, and then there are plenty of guys in corners who are doing good jobs. I don't mean that. Now, I certainly don't mean to imply I'm the only guy in a corner. There are others, and they are doing a good job. I'm just the only guy I know that's doing it right now. You know what I mean? Where I just got I back my ass up to the wall and take on all comers on the internet. Call me and I'll wake you up. Right? It's just it's ridiculous. But I've been doing it for so long now, I don't know anything else to do. And it seems to be pretty, worthwhile. So I hear. This guy today I watched for the first 60 minutes, I watched him, and I was looking at Mr. Intellectual. And he was splitting hairs and doing everything. He warned me up front that he might, right? And so he warned me that he might, and he did. And for an hour, we trudged along. And I wake up most people, and usually these days in about 40, 45 minutes. Sometimes a little less, but not a whole lot less as a general rule. Well, I was at the hour place, and at the hour place, I got far enough that this guy noticed that I had just pulled the rug out from under him. And the face went from Mr. Intellectual to Mr. Fearful. You could see he was terrified. See, ego was right up to that line. He knew the jig was up. If I'm not really, really careful, I'm going to wake up here. So you see, you have to wake up more than you want to stay asleep, because you may sort of get that. It'll feel like a choice. And for all I know, we got to cooperate with the inevitable. That's the way it looks to me. So you want to be able to move. I told the guy, I said, listen, I know that this is scary. I can see on your face that you're scared. And I understand that. I can remember when I was scared too. But I just want you to remember that the actual arrangement thing, that what I'm actually offering you, is I'm asking you if you want to exchange nothing for everything. See, that's what he wanted to. That's what the real offer was. Because the ego that was sitting there as Mr. Intellectual, it wasn't real. It was there and it was putting on quite a show, but it's not real. It's just patterns. There's nothing in the middle of those patterns. There's no real ego there. So we use the ego to find out that there's no real ego. There's no hard candy center to the patterns that you see here as Fredness. There are all these patterns: gray hair, glasses, white shirt, moves his hands, laughs. But there's nothing in the middle of that. See, there's no Fred here. There's just Fredness. But there's plenty enough of that. And there was plenty enough of this guy too. And he got clearer and clearer with me. But he just wouldn't let it go. See, you have to be willing to be honest with yourself. I say this over and over and over again, but it's the truth. The only thing I need in a client, if they want to wake up, is the willingness to tell themselves the truth. And the only thing I need in a student, which is simply a client that continues to stay with me, is the willingness to tell themselves the truth over and over. Not just one time, over and over. See, I signed up for the one big awakening and the one big surrender and the one big all that, and then I would graduate from spirituality and all that. And that's what I signed up for, but it's not available. It really is not. It's just not. Isn't that sad? I mean, it just broke my heart. Even in post-awakening, you can see, because there's just this big hope that, that I'm going to dump all Fredness and I'm going to get my loincloth and I am going to the jungle and I am going to be a guru by God, and all the deer will want to be with me. geez, we just do this stuff, right? So I have had a bird come down and land on my hand and just stay there while I talked to it, and that was pretty interesting. Just a wild bird out in my backyard one time. But the deer, they don't seem to love me too much. My dogs love me, but I feed them like hell and spoil them, so why would they not? What's freeing for you is what you got to find. You got to find that guy in the corner if you're really going to get serious about this. And it doesn't have to be this guy in this corner. But it's got to be some guy in some corner. It doesn't mean that some of the teachers with really large followings and stuff aren't waking people up. Some of them are. And, and they may be waking up as many people as I am, for all I know. But their percentages don't compare. So you need to be lucky if you're going to wake up there. You just need to be lucky. Honest to God, there's no... So how do you wake up? You get lucky. That's how, in that situation. So if you know how to get lucky, have at it, right? Then that's what I'd do. I'd go ahead and just work on getting lucky. But if you don't know how to get lucky, go where the odds are not against you. How about that for an idea? Huh? See, this thing is not difficult. It's simple. It's not intellectual. It's right here. The simplicity of this thing is astonishing. That's the reason my students laugh all the time. Is because they see it all the time. They experience it. Not every moment of every day, but a lot. And some of them are getting right up there. I certainly have students that are getting right up there. I have students that are waking people up, as a matter of fact. Not on a regular basis, but it's happening. It sure is. It's happened more than once. I expect there'll be students I have that'll wake up more people than I have because they'll be younger when they wake up. But I ain't done too bad. But I keep it simple. I'm not interested in really and truly. I sometimes get lost in theory myself, but it's not very often. And when I do, there's usually a larger point to it, which is I want you to be able to see what I'm talking about when I'm talking about that which is prior to consciousness or something like that. So I've got to give you some kind of idea as to how to grok what is prior to consciousness. I have to give you some way of... Because, see, you can't understand this thing. Hell, I don't understand it. I really don't. And I don't think any teacher I know has ever understood it. It's not an understanding thing. When they talk about the understanding, that's a knowing of a different order. It's not knowing like, oh, I got it out of this book and now I know it, or I heard it from that teacher and now I know it. It's not that kind of thing. It's of a whole different order. And understanding is just the best word that we can come up with. So we sometimes call it the understanding. We call it enlightenment. We call it awakening. We call it liberation. We call it lots of different things, and there are good reasons for why we call it different things. Because it is many different things. But the odds of you just catching this thing, when I was in recovery, they used to talk about people who would just come to meetings and not do any of the work, and they would say, you're not going to get this thing by osmosis. That's what I love about recovery. They're just so direct, so crude, right? They just go right for it. And you're not going to get this by osmosis either. I mean, you might. Well, who do I know? What do I know? But you better be lucky. Because, see, when this teaching was first hatched, When it first arrived, it only arrived because when when I looked at, I was standing on the staircase in my home, and I looked down, and I was on the stairwell, the landing, excuse me. I was on the landing of the staircase, and that landing represented where enlightenment was. That's just the vision kind of thing. And I looked down the stairs, and I could see that there all the people, all the seekers were from all the different traditions, and they're coming up the stairs, and they're trying to get toward enlightenment. And they're reading books, and they're learning practices, and they're getting love and encouragement and all this. And the idea is to move up those steps one at a time, and you get clearer and clearer and clearer and clearer until you find yourself on the landing. And then in the flash, what I saw was a staircase full of skeletons. And that was the first time that I ever realized that all the pilgrims are dying on the way to God. Very few are making it. That's the truth. And something came to me that said, what if we could wake them up first? And I thought, I don't know how to do that. I have no way of doing that. That's the craziest thought I ever heard. But I know how to do it now. I can't wake you up. I can't make you wake up. I can't wake up anybody. But boy, I have some tremendous influence in helping you wake up if you really want to wake up. God, I didn't really mean to come here and talk that much about the living method. I meant to talk about directness in general, and it was going to use me as a little side example, and I see now that that's not what's happened. But I got 31 and a half minutes. I ain't killing this thing. So we got what we got. And find yourself a guy in a corner.